Prabhupada ki jai, His Holiness Mahavishnu Goswami Maharaj ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande, Hare Hare Bol. So, Hare Krishna everyone. So, first of all, thank you, His Grace Amrish Prabhuji, Her Grace Panpege Mataji, and His Grace Krishna Samarpan Krishna Prabhu for giving me opportunity to study this nectar of instruction verses and share my realizations here in this forum. So we're studying nectar of instruction text 2. Okay, let me share the screen. Then we'll start with recitation. Okay, sorry. Okay, just a minute. Okay. Can you everyone see the screen? Okay.
Yes,
अत्याहारः प्रयासश्च प्रजल्पो नियमाग्रहः जनासङ्गश्च लौल्यं च षड्भिर्भक्तिर्विनश्यति. Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. One's devotional services spoil when he becomes too entangled in following 6 activities. Number 1, eating more than necessary or collecting more funds than required. Number 2, over endeavoring for mundane things that are very difficult to obtain. Number 3, talking unnecessarily about mundane subject matters. 4, practicing the scriptural rules and regulation only for the sake of following them and not for the sake of spiritual advancement, or rejecting the rules and regulation of the scriptures and working independently or whimsically. Number 5, associating with worldly minded persons who are not interested in Krishna consciousness. And number 6, being greedy for mundane achievements. So, yeah, so let's start with the intermediate class devotees, and then, the leader Sangha also can join the recitation if they wish. Okay. Let's start with the Pradhan Prabhu. Yeah.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Thank you
Hare
so much.
Krishna.
Thank you, His Grace Amrish Prabhuji, Hare Grace Purnaparna Mataji, and His Grace Krishna Samarpan Krishna Prabhuji for training us. Atyahara prayasascha prajalpo niyamagraha jana sangascha lolyam cha shadbir bhakti vinashyati. Translation: One's devotional service is spoiled when he becomes too entangled in the following 6 activities: eating more than necessary or collecting more funds than required, over-endeavoring for mundane things that are very difficult to obtain, talking unnecessarily about mundane subject matters, practicing the scriptural rules and regulations only for the sake of following them and not for the sake of spiritual advancement, or rejecting the rules and regulations of the scriptures and working independently or whimsically. Fifth, to associating with worldly minded persons who are not interested in Krishna consciousness. And sixth, being greedy for mundane achievements. Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Thank you, Prabhuji, for this. Thank you, Hare Grace Purnaparna Mataji, His Grace Amrish Prabhuji, and His Grace Krishna Samarpan Krishna Prabhuji for training us. Atyahara prayasascha prajalpo niyamagraha jana sangascha lolyam cha shadbir bhakti vinashyati. Translation: One's devotional service is spoiled when he becomes too entangled in the following 6 activities. 1, eating more than necessary or collecting more funds than required. 2, over-endeavoring for mundane things that are very difficult to obtain. 3, talking unnecessary about mundane subject matters. 4, practicing the scriptural rules and regulation only for the sake of following them and not for the sake of spiritual advancement, or rejecting the rules and regulation of the scriptures and working independently or whimsically. Fifth, associating with worldly minded persons who are not interested in Krishna consciousness. And six, being greedy for mundane achievements. Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. We are not able to hear you.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Let's start our actually discussion on the purpose. So last week, I think we discussed Jana Sangha, right? The association with worldly-minded person. So, okay, we'll get to the purport where we stopped. Okay, Jana Sangha. So, yeah, I think we have in-depth discussion on this topic last week. So basically, Jana Sangha refers to actually our association with the worldly-minded people in this world, especially in Kali Yuga. I think having a spiritual association is quite rare. So we emphasize the point that actually devotee, they must actually associate with the actually devotees, and especially pure devotees. Okay, so even in the Krishna conscious movement is another important point to note is that not everyone is pure, right? So yeah, I think so many actually devotees they're trying to become Krishna conscious. So not everybody is following all the rules and regulations. Not everyone is serious as well. So we have to be very very careful to whose association we should seek, right? So as in our program Hare Krishna weekend, we always emphasize that we always focus on Srila Prabhupada's instructions given in Srila Prabhupada's books, Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, all those small books as well. And we learn that in the mood of His Holiness Mahavishnu Goswami Maharaj. So we are certain Guru Maharaj and Srila Prabhupada, they are pure devotees. So we try to actually limit, our source of knowledge to these two sources and whatever we learn in this program. And Ambrish Prabhu always emphasized, the source of knowledge is very, very important. So actually, similarly, our association has to be very carefully chosen, right? So some people may they dress like devotees. However, we do not know, actually how serious they are on this line of devotion. So we should not just go by actually their outward dress. One has to be very careful to see that if they are actually serious, if they are following all the rules and regulations, if the way they talk or the topic they discuss is that in line with what we learn in our program. So this is very important, and that's why I always say that we associate with like-minded people. So like-minded means what we actually the mood that we follow in this program. Just a minute. I think I had a technical issue. I think just to give me a minute. My apologies. Okay, can everyone still see the actually screen that I'm sharing?
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay. Okay, I think there was a bit of a problem with the power supply, so actually my screen disappeared. Okay, so the Janasangha that we discussed, right? So Janasangha is also not strictly meaning actually our association with the actually just the people. So even actually we say that actually having actually association means remaining in a proximity. So normally that is actually misconstrued. So if you're actually living in a proximity of some people, that you are seeking their association. So it could be true, yes, you can actually, if you're actually emotionally or intimately dealing with them, that is true. But as I said, association is actually when you actually in the course of work, when you're doing your business, or actually when going to the school or colleges. But if you're not very intimately involved, or not actually very much interested in the activities they do, then it's not considered the association. So even you can have a devotional association by just reading the Srila Prabhupada's books, or Srila Gurudev's instructions, or listening to these classes. So that could be also devotional association. So it's just not physical proximity. So by just reading a book, because those books and instruction in the book can have a big impact on how we actually behave or how we think. So that is also association. So let's start with actually continue our discussion from the next paragraph. Right. Okay. Who would like to read today? Yeah. Okay. Srishti Mataji. Yeah, you can continue.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, I also have a question. Can I ask after the class? I ask.
Yes, sir. Is that relating to this topic?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yes. Yes,
Jana
Mataji.
Sangam.
Okay.
Prabhuji, like when we do preaching, when we start doing preaching activities, then sometimes we need to also involve with them in order to understand those person. So we are not taking the association, but when we are associating with the office colleagues, we just try to uh, ask them some questions in order to preach. So at that time, this association will impact our bhakti or how?
Uh, yes, actually. So the actually point of not taking association, that has to be understood properly. So you said, like, actually when you want to preach to the actually people who are not Krishna conscious, so they may actually interact with you. They will ask question. You may ask question. You actually have a conversation. But what actually it is meant by we give association, we don't take association. So when we say we don't take association, we don't get influenced by their ideas or materialistic ideas. So they may try to sometimes discourage you, saying, "Oh, actually, what you're doing is not needed. You don't really have to actually maybe chant 16 rounds. You can go, maybe once in a while to temple, and that is enough. Or you could do this in after you retire and all that." So we don't get influenced by, because we're convinced. So that's why actually Amrish Prabhu also said that you first actually you are trained here. We don't ask very actually neophyte people to go and preach, right? Because they have to be first convinced. They must have a actually firm faith that actually in Krishna and the concept that we learned here. If actually they are convinced, then it's very actually then you will not get influenced by materialistic ideas, right? So it is. I have experienced the similar thing that when I go and talk to the people, even in the families, because you are in a constant association with the family members, right? So whenever I go to India, you are there 24/7. And there's in my family actually, the people who are not actually interested, they will constantly try to discourage you by actually giving their actual justification and how it is not good, and how it is going to affect your actually career and all that. But I don't get affected, right? So because I didn't make this decision overnight, so I have been actually following this program for quite a long time. So Amrish Prabhu has trained us, and we have actually read the instruction, we have read the actually Bhagavad Gita, all these books, and try to understood it. So when we are convinced, when we are chanting our 16 rounds, on all these things, then I do not think actually you will get influenced by their actually instruction or thoughts. So yeah, you have to be very firm in your faith, and when you preach, you have to be also very careful as well. So you don't get intimately involved. So if they invite you to some party or something, try to avoid such actual association, because we are still learning as well. We try to progress on this path. We have not conquered our senses as well. So try not to get in a actually association like that may have a detrimental effect on us, right? So this is very, very important, especially when you actually talk to your close friends, you're actually, college friends and something you have very close relationship. So you may be good friends, but they may not be actually on board with what you think, or actually what you're doing. So that is particularly I have experienced is very difficult to deal with, because you cannot openly refute their ideas, but you have to remain firm, So I have done actually, I have experienced that. I have actually gone through that. So initially there is a lot of opposition from my own friends, but now they understood. Now they understand. Oh, he's very firm. He's not going to give up no matter what you tell him. So they stop actually, influencing you in that matter. So so yes, Mataji, is that actually explained?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yeah. So you have to first, actually need to actually study, learn. You convince yourself first, because if you're not actually have a firm faith in what you're doing, then you're more likely to get influenced by others' instructions. Okay. Let's begin the next paragraph then.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Srila Bhakti Siddhant Saraswati Thakur writes in his Anuvritti commentary that too much endeavor to acquire knowledge on the part of mental speculators or dry philosophers fall within the category of atyahara, collecting more than needed. According to Srimad Bhagavatam, the endeavor of philosophical speculators to write volumes of books on dry philosophy devoid of Krishna consciousness is entirely futile. The work of karmis who write volumes of books on economic development also falls within the category of atyahara. Similarly, those who have no desire for Krishna consciousness and who are simply interested in possessing more and more material things, either in the shape of scientific knowledge or monetary gain, are all included under the control of atyahara.
Okay. So here, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he's giving actually further examples, right? So first is a category of a mental speculator or dry philosophers, So and also there is a category is a the philosophical speculators. So that will actually include the people like scientists as well or philosophers, So they do actually try to uh, actually prove, actually try to understand Krishna by experimental knowledge as well, So there is actually Srila Prabhupada, he has actually in one of his purport in Srimad Bhagavatam first canto, he writes about actually philosophical speculators, So they, sometimes they try to understand God, understand God on the dint of their scientific knowledge, and they try to actually come up with the theories, and they actually try to do experiments and try to reach the conclusions. So Srila Prabhupada said that the mental speculators, so even they go on speculating for millions of years, with all the knowledge they got, which is very limited, as we know. So they are also living entities just like us, So they actually the intelligence we got is also limited, our senses are actually limited, they are not perfect. So Srila Prabhupada said it's not possible to understand actually Krishna by just experimental knowledge or speculating mind, and there is a word that actually there is one of the name of Krishna. It's a verse reference in Srimad Bhagavatam. Savai pumsa parodharmo yathor bhaktir adhokshaj. So adhokshaj is another name for Krishna, and actually the meaning of adhokshaj, is adhokshaj means one who pushed down, adha. Srila Prabhupada explained, one who pushed down all the efforts made by mental speculators, to try to understand him, So it's no possibility. Even Srila Prabhupada say, if they can go on speculating for thousands of years or millions of years, they even not even come close to understanding Krishna. And so this category of mental speculator or even scientists, or they may not be interested in God as well. Scientists may not be interested in God. They may write, they come up with, actually they try to observe the nature, they try to come up with actually the relationship between the different matter and stuff like that. So scientists, they actually do research on various things, and they write the, uh, like Srila Prabhupada said, volumes of books. But if is that not leading towards Krishna, or is not going to lead you to become Krishna conscious, then that is again atyahar, or you even can call it a prajalp, or prayas. Actually, all their endeavors are wasted. So there is an, what is the next category is mentioned there is the also the work of karmis who write, yeah, volumes of books. So when we talk about karmis and their books, then mostly these are the novels, fictional things, that we come across. So you will see that, there are thousands and millions of books in libraries, that is filled with the love stories or some adventure or something like that. By reading those things, I don't think so anybody can become God conscious. You know. So yes, because we have, and the reason we do not actually waste our time reading this kind of literature, because we have limited time, in this body, and our actually the purpose of our actually birth in this human body is to understand Krishna and become Krishna conscious. So as Srila Prabhupada, Srila Gurudev, His Holiness Mahavishnu Goswami Maharaj said that every breath has to be used in Krishna's service, because we got limited time in this body, we got limited intelligence. So it's very important that we use our time very wisely. So every moment, every breath, I think we should plan to use somehow or in relationship with Krishna. Okay, otherwise it will just become unnecessary endeavor, prayas or atyahar. So even they write actually volumes of other different kind of novels and all that, their ultimate objective is to make money, or get some monetary gain or become famous. So these are all material objectives, it's not actually leading to in any way to understand God. Okay, any questions on these points before we move on? Okay, yeah, continue, Mataji.
Karmis labor to accumulate more and more money for future generations only because they do not know their future position. Interested only in getting more and more money for their sons and grandsons, such foolish persons do not even know that their position is going to be in the next life. What their position is going to be in the next life. There are many incidents that illustrate this point. Once a great Karmi accumulated a vast fortune for his sons and grandsons, but later, according to his karma, he took his birth in a cobbler's house located near the building which in his previous life he had constructed for his children. It so happened that when this very cobbler came to his former house, his former sons and grandsons beat him with shoes. Unless the karmis and gyanis become interested in Krishna consciousness, they will simply continue to waste their life in fruitless activities.
Okay, so here's another example actually atyahar given here. So the karmis, and this is very classic, especially what I have seen, in India is very common, you see this happening even within our own families, that actually, if you are actually wealthy or, you have resources, people just keep working enough here, even if they have enough wealth, to actually continue. So this is also atyahar, could be also can fall into the category of greed as well, because the greed for money and wealth, no matter how much you earn, it never ends. So we see that actually people just keep working, sometimes they work so hard and try to actually accumulate more and more wealth. Even if they accumulate billions of dollars, still they don't stop, and think that, okay, I have enough money, I should now think about actually how I can actually progress, spiritually. Actually, you will not see this happening. The people actually, once they have more wealth, they will find another way to invest that money and make even more and more wealth. So it goes on, it's non-stop cycle. So here, actually, the Srila Prabhupada gave the example of this particular karmi, actually who accumulated vast wealth, for his sons and grandsons, So this is also an extended sense gratification as well, and as we studied previously. So he have enough wealth to enjoy, satisfy his senses, but he still want to accumulate more and more for his sons, not just for my sons, the grandsons. So he's actually making arrangements for forthcoming generations. But he fails to understand his own position that he can die any moment. And he fails to understand that no matter how much wealth he accumulate in this lifetime, there is no way he can able to take any of that with him when he is going to leave his body. Okay. So it comes to the very basic actually principles that he do not understand that he actually there is a next life, and that next life will be determined by how I actually behave in this lifetime. So there is actually, as it says, that actually all the wealth that we earn in this lifetime, it ends with this body. So as Krishna actually says in Bhagavad Gita, that he's a death personified, Kala. So actually, Krishna says that actually everyone sees Krishna at the time of a death. Of course devotees will see him because there is a loving relationship. But even for the karmis who are even atheists who are not interested in actually knowing God at all, they will also see actually Krishna, but in the form of death, right? And he says that Mrityu sarva harasya chaham. At the time of death, I take everything away, whatever you own. So this is a Bhagavad Gita philosophy, right? So a lot of people who are not interested in Krishna or understanding God, they may not have this knowledge, or they may not, even if somebody preach them, they do not want to understand all this. So this is very precarious and unfortunate situation that we are wasting, all our actually time and energy in accumulating wealth more and more, even we have enough, because it's not going to be very helpful, just accumulating it. So if you remember, Amrish Prabhu also mentioned in one of our programs that actually the devotees, the Brahmanas, as soon as actually wealth come to them, they just distribute further, they use it in Krishna's service, they just don't keep it accumulating and just being happy that, oh, my bank balance is, growing day by day. So this is stupidity, So all the wealth that comes to us, we should engage in Krishna's service. So that this is actually how the Brahmana, they manage wealth. If they actually, with the grace of the Lord, if they get any wealth, it's used in the Krishna service. So this is very important, and you can see that it's a very unfortunate story that even because of his attachment to his wealth and to his grandsons, he was born nearby, but in a cobbler's house, and when he went back, actually the son, same actually his children, his grandsons, they beat him, so this is a karma, coming back. So we should learn from this, actually we should not waste our time just running behind money or running behind wealth, and keeping the actually Krishna as a second priority, so we have to actually prioritize what is actually most important thing, so Krishna should be the first priority in all our dealings. So that is a learning I got, to implement practically it may take some time, so it depend on everyone how serious you are, but actually the lesson has to be learned. Okay, continue, Mataji.
Accepting some of the scriptural rules and regulation for immediate benefit. As ultritarians advocate is called
It's a utility.
utilitarians advocate is called niyam agraha, and neglecting the rules and regulations of the shastras, which are meant for spiritual development, is called niyam agraha. The word agraha means eagerness to accept, and agraha means failure to accept. Agraha means failure to accept. By the addition of either of these two words to the word niyam, rules and regulations, the word niyamagraha is formed. Thus, niyamagraha has twofold meaning that is understood according to the particular combination of words. Those interested in Krishna consciousness should not be eager to accept rules and regulations for economic advancement. Yet they should very faithfully accept scriptural rules and regulations for the advancement of Krishna consciousness. They should strictly follow the regulative principles of avoiding illicit sex, meat eating, gambling, and intoxication.
Okay. So yeah, this is a very important one. So this is the next point, niyamagraha, right? So as it is very nicely explained by Srila Prabhupada, so this word niyamagraha, so the agraha means failure to accept or neglect of, and agraha means eagerness to accept. We should implement these actually instructions. So the word niyam is a means rule, right? So niyam means rules. So when we talk about actually niyam, then it could be a prescription, the actually things we must do, or it could be prohibitions, right? So things that we should give up. So the four regulative principles, they are the prohibitions, right? Eating meat, actually the illicit sex, intoxication. So all these things, these are the things we actually give up. These are prohibitions. And the prescription is like chanting 16 Ram, right? This is a prescription. We must accept, eagerness to accept. So in Krishna consciousness, the main principle is, so what is the actually basic principle of Krishna consciousness? You should know now. Yes, Mataji?
To serve Krishna.
No, Pradhan Prabhu?
Hare Krishna, are you talking about the four regulative principles?
No, those are there. What is actually the very important principle of, of Krishna consciousness?
I think to remember Krishna and never forget
Yes.
him. We
Yes. So
always.
first principle is always remember Krishna. The second principle, never forget Krishna, right? So this prescription is very, very important. The most important niyam for us to become Krishna consciousness, because yeah, you must have realized by now. Even actually all the actually verses in Bhagavad Gita, the most important instruction in Bhagavad Gita is also actually to remember Krishna, right? We see that, Antakaleche mameva, smaran mukta kalevaram. So ultimately, we are doing all our actually activities, we're chanting Krishna. So in order, so that we can remember him constantly, right? So that is the main object of chanting. So we can associate with Krishna and we remember him. So Srila Prabhupada says the best way to remember Krishna to chant his holy name. That is the best way. So yes, you can remember Krishna by actually rendering other services as well, right? So you could preach about Krishna, or even you can actually go and cook for Krishna. So there are myriad of services you could do for Krishna, right? So ultimately, the object of everything is to actually remember Krishna in all your activities. So they all become Krishna conscious. So here, when you say niyama graha, so the prescription and prohibitions, right? So here is say the word actually agraha means eagerness to accept, and word agraha means failure to accept. So Srila Prabhupada is writing the addition of either of these two words to the word niyam, rules and regulations, the word niyamagraha is formed. The niyamagraha has a twofold meaning that is to be understood according to the particular combination of words. Those interested in Krishna consciousness should not be eager to accept the rules and regulations for economic advancement, right? So the first actually sentence here, Srila Prabhupada write, accepting some of the rules and regulation for immediate benefit as a utilitarian advocate is called nimagra. So sometime actually people are just looking for benefit. Maybe mostly it is a material benefit. So actually when some of the scriptures, actually when we try to follow, so it is also actually mentioned, actually whenever you actually try to become Krishna conscious, so definitely, sometime you do get actually the wealth, when you engage in Krishna service is kind of a side effect that you get a material opulence, so our objective is to not just get a material opulence by actually serving Krishna. We actually render service so that we purify our existence and we become a servant of a Krishna. The objective should not be a material benefit. So Srila Prabhupada also say that we should not be very eager to accept the rules and regulation for economic advancement, right? So yeah, actually economic actually development is also important, as Guru Maharaj says that there should be a enough Lakshmi coming into the house. There should be your needs, actually what are the needs and needs of the family. There should be enough money to actually cater to those needs. Then you can actually have a actually peace of mind, so you can chant and think about Krishna. But the objective is not just actually we accumulate more and more wealth, and actually the actually devotional service become a second priority. So when we think about actually becoming Krishna consciousness, so if that is actually topmost objective, then for if you think about your present situation, so it's like a staircase. I think this example was given previously. It's like a staircase. So if you want to reach the topmost stair where you will become actually Krishna conscious, then all other step, the intermediate steps, they are just a step. You have to actually climb one by one. So I was thinking, even like it is there are various ways you can become a Krishna conscious. Bhagavad Gita actually narrate all those actually instructions, that there is a karma yoga, jnana yoga, ashtanga yoga, and then it ultimately comes to the final point, there is a bhakti yoga. So for each stage there are rules, prescription and prohibitions, right? So when you advance from one step to next step, then you should not remain attached to the rules and regulation to the previous step, right? So even actually depending on actually when we talk about varnashram dharma, so even actually when we discuss about atyahar, so there is instruction separate, like for a grahastha, when you talk about atyahar, then the grahastha can accumulate some amount of wealth, because he has to maintain his family. He has to actually serve the Vaishnavas. So even for the emergency fund, so you have to earn and accumulate some money so that you can use. However, when you actually become a sannyasi, so you may be grahastha, but if you later take a sannyas, so you are in that actually position, then you cannot be remain attached to the rules, actually prescription and prohibition of a grahastha, right? You understand? So for actually sannyasi, it is prohibited to actually earn or accumulate any wealth. So all these things, actually the niyamana graha can actually, applicable in these situations as well, depending on your position, actually where you actually situated. But actually broadly, as Srila Prabhupada says that our objective is to become Krishna conscious. So our actually focus that we should actually follow the rules and regulation that is prescribed to us to chanting 16 rounds, following this actually regulative principles, actually 4 regulative principles. So we must actually comply with these actually regulations, the rules and regulations very sincerely. So it is said that when we follow the rules and regulation properly and we chant our 16 round, so there is a guarantee that you will definitely progress on this actually path of Krishna consciousness. But if you actually neglect the rules and regulations, if you think whimsically, so there is also some actually Amrish also shared some examples before program, that one of the devotee, actually he wanted to actually preach, go around the world and preach, and he wanted to actually hire a boat and go around, actually different towns, and he should go and do the sankirtan there. But to actually make that happen, he needed some money, you know. So initially he resorted to the option of actually smuggling a drug, you know. So even he did that successfully a couple of times, but even that is actually didn't stop him, Okay, I have some money now, I should stop and continue preaching, but he didn't do it, and finally got caught, So this is actually not actually following the rules and regulations, Actually, you're thinking whimsically, because he's actually concocting his own actually way, how he can actually make a money so that he can use it for actually in Krishna's service. So this is the meaning of actually not following the rules and regulations and thinking whimsically or speculating. So that's why to become Krishna conscious, you need a guidance, and a guidance from a pure devotee, right? So that's why you need a guru. So you cannot just read the books and become a Krishna conscious, right? So you understand these points actually, why it is very important to follow the rules and regulations. So yeah, actually, it's very very important. First, because we have to regulate ourselves. The reason we have this actually four regulatory principles, because they are very actually helpful to give up the bad habits. Actually, to put that in very simplistic terms, because by actually indulging it, intoxication is not going to help at all, because you will become addicted, and there is no way you can actually chant Krishna's names. Okay, yes, Prabhuji, you have a question?
Yes, sir. Roji, you told us the point about like the staircase example that you just gave, that there is each step we have to follow. We have to be step by step. So I did not understand the point that we should not be attached to the rules and regulations when we are progressing step by step. So, like when you give the example of if we become sannyasi from a grahastha, so like I always used to think that they are like they work parallelly, like they are both accepted to become Krishna consciousness, that they are both bona fide ways that we can become Krishna conscious. Is that so, Prabhuji, or like are we talking about sannyas as in renouncing thing, or the sannyas as in order of life? Because I did not get that.
Hmm. Actually, can you talk a bit louder, Prabhuji? I think I'm a bit struggling to hear you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Can you hear me now?
Yes. Yes.
Yes, Prabhuji. I did not understand that point, Prabhu, when you said that we have to go step by step, and we
Yes.
cannot be attached to the rules and regulations of the previous step.
So when
And
we
then,
made a comparison between grahastha and sannyas, is it?
yes, Prabhuji.
Yeah. So what is the question there, Prabhuji?
Uh, I used to think, Prabhuji, that sannyas and grasta, they are both the bona fide ways we can become Krishna conscious. So, like, are we talking sannyas as in like renouncing things, like Krishna talks about sannyas in Bhagavad Gita, or sannyas as in order of life? Like, at last, we
Okay.
all have to become sannyasi.
Yes, yes, I understood now what you're saying. So yes, actually the question that you asked, that yes, you can become a Krishna conscious in any of the ashrams. You can become Krishna conscious and go back to Godhead by just remaining in a grahastha ashram as well. So that's not going to stop you. But actually, if you are actually grahast now, and if you take later sannyas, so just like Srila Gurudev and Srila Prabhupada, they took sannyas, right? They were grahasthas before. So yeah, you can take it, but as it is generally said, it's not very actually not recommended in Kali Yuga, right? But if someone is very very serious, very very confident, and actually totally dedicated his life, he can become a sannyasi. But it's not generally recommended for everyone, who try to become Krishna conscious. You can become Krishna conscious in a grahastha ashram as well. There is no harm. But even in a grahast, if you remember, that actually Amrish Prabhu always mentioned this point, even actually being a grahast or remaining in that ashram, you can become a sannyasi. So sannyasi is actually what? Renunciation, renunciation, renunciating the attachment to the materialistic things, right? So yes, actually, but especially when you actually formally take a sannyas, then it's become particularly important that you should not remain attached to the actually prescriptions or the actually prescribed duties, of a grahastha ashram. So when you grahast, yes, you're allowed to accumulate wealth, to take care of family. Then you have the family relationship. So you're allowed to do that. But once you actually formally take a sannyas, this is prohibited to earn or actually make money and accumulate the wealth. You understand this point? So the actually the devotees who are sannyasi now, they should not accumulate wealth at all, or they should not actually try to earn or make economic benefit. So that is prohibited for that ashram. But if you are in actually grahas ashram, yes, you are allowed to earn, you are allowed to actually accumulate the wealth. But even within actually staying within the ashram, nobody is actually stopping you to become a detached person. right? You may have the wife, beautiful wife, but if you actually remain detached, then actually it is said that you are the best sannyasi, because you are even uh, being in actually grahas ashram, you're totally detached from the family life, or actually even the you're detached from all this economic activity, economic benefit, or the wealth. So even Srila Prabhupada says that even you are actually grahast, then still you should actually always try to become detached from actually detachment from the material wealth, or detachment from the family. So detachment from the family doesn't mean that you actually reject the family, but actually you should actually only focus on actually becoming Krishna conscious, or make them Krishna conscious. uh, do not actually overly indulge in actually sense gratifying activities. You understand this point, Prabhuji?
Yes, Prabhu.
Yeah, but actually, yeah, if you yeah, you could if you could please also post this question in our intermediate group, then actually we will raise that with Amrish Prabhu as well, so he could better explain these points. So okay, Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhuji, yes, I wanted to ask. There is a difference between following actually like formally taking sannyas and practicing that sannyas. There is
Yeah,
a
there is a
but
difference. Yes. Yes, Prabhuji. If you formally you want to become a sannyasi, there is a process. So actually I do not have that much knowledge to explain what steps you have to go through. But when you read about, actually, I read about Srila Prabhupada's biography. So there is particular, actually steps you have to go through. There are ceremonies and all that, where they actually formally give you the sannyas and all that. So yes, there is. But actually, the most important thing for the sannyas is to be totally actually renounce all the actually materialistic things. You're not supposed to be actually indulge in any materialistic activities. Once you become sannyas. But even as a grahastha, we should always opt for to become detached. So yes, we are in grahastha ashram, but we should always try to become actually behave like a sannyasi, or remain actually try to become detached as much as possible. From this all these materialistic things. That is only going to help us more and more. Okay, Pravesh?
yes,
Okay, I
Prabhu.
think we will. Yes, yes, Pravesh.
No, I was saying thank you.
Okay. So I think we will stop here, because we have 10 minutes left now. It's 4:50. So let's have a break, and then we'll come back to the main session at 5 p.m. And we will continue actually this discussion in our next actually Sunday. Okay. And if you still have any other questions, this is for all the actually intermediate class devotees. Please actually uh, post those questions in intermediate class, because unless you post them, then we may forget. By the time we reach actually conclude this verse. So please remember to post them up, so I can actually compile the list of the questions, and then we can ask Amrish Prabhu to go over all these questions. So definitely he could able to actually better explain all these points. And if you have any other actually doubts, that can be clarified in the final session. All right. Okay. Let's take a break.